Hi there, this is Steve, and I'm here to present my first video in a series of about, I'm not sure how many actually as I write this, but probably 4 or 5, highlighting my plugin, the latest version, and explaining it all from the beginning, called ABC, which stands for A Better Circle. And the one I'm going to be demonstrating is the release that I'm preparing for version 1.2 final. I actually just released a couple days ago, as I make this video, build number 340, which was version 1.2 beta 3. This version that I'm going to demonstrate only differs very slightly from that version, mostly bug fixes, little tiny issues that I found during testing. But otherwise it should be roughly the same. I'm going to be presenting these different videos about the different subtopics, because otherwise it takes a very long time to demonstrate this plugin. It's actually meant to be quite easy to use and quite intuitive, but I ask everyone to watch this video first, and then if you are interested in the topics that are represented for the other videos, you have the basis of having watched this, so I don't have to keep re-explaining in each of those videos kind of the basic fundamentals of using ABC. So without further ado, I'll jump into explaining what ABC is. In a nutshell, ABC is a replacement for this external menu. Not all of the features, but a lot of the features. It either extends these or replaces them, or adds similar different views to what normally comes with X-Plane. So of course I can't change the menu here, so you have to get access to all of the features in ABC through this menu, the ABC A Better Circle plugin menu. And I'll go through some of these in a bit, but real quick I just wanted to show you the settings, which we'll come back to, but this tells you what version we're running in, as well as mention up front that there are several modes. These are all modes that are basically equivalent to the camera modes I showed you in the other menu. There's circle view, chase view, free camera view, still spot, which is just like X-Plane's. These are all sort of reverse engineered by me, so they're emulating those views, and you don't have to change anything to take advantage of them. You just either bind a keyboard binding to the command, or just choose it from the menu. So to get circle view, I've already got it, but to get chase view, you just click that, and now you're in chase view. It works just like the external aircraft menu in that sense. Free camera view. And notice I can use the same keyboard bindings that come with X-Plane, so you don't have to do any configuration. ABC will take over these keyboard bindings and use them for itself, as long as ABC is in control of the camera. And the way X-Plane works, plugins and X-Plane can all take over the camera whenever the user asks for those views to be presented. So as soon as you switch to one of these commands, one of these views using these commands, here's still spot. Won't do anything since it's sitting still, but I'll go into it in a second. Because they're all these commands all invoke ABC specific functions, they automatically toggle ABC control mode on. But anytime you want, either using command keys like Shift 4 or other ways, you can turn ABC off just by going to the view in question. You don't have to explicitly toggle ABC off. So now I'm in the built-in X-Plane circle view, and those same exact keyboard bindings, which are the default to rotate the screen, rotate the camera left and right, or to look up and down, or whatever, move closer, further, zoom in, zoom out. All of those keyboard bindings that you currently use, or maybe they're on your hat switches or whatever, those will work automatically in ABC mode. And in that sense, it might be hard to tell what's ABC and what's X-Plane. So I'm going to show you how you can tell that pretty easily. And I'll also explain why would you even want to do this in just a second. But so if you change to X-Plane's different camera modes, you're just in X-Plane and you're not in ABC anymore. To get back to an ABC view, you can either choose the view, so maybe it's chase view, maybe it's free camera, circle, one of these spot views, or you can just toggle ABC mode back on. See, it's off now. And you'll notice that the last view we were in was this still spot view, which I give a shorthand name of flyby to, but it is the same basic feature as X-planes. And so the way you do that is you just toggle ABC control mode on, and I have a keyboard binding for that, which I'm going to go ahead and use. That way I don't have to click the menu. You can actually see the menu update as I do it. I'm going to click it now. All right, now I'm in flyby mode. Again, since the aircraft isn't moving, it doesn't do anything, but you notice that the camera moved and you're in ABC control mode now. So you can just toggle ABC control mode off and on, off and on, and all that's doing is switching you from whatever camera you were on back to ABC and then back out again as you toggle it. And so this is part of the multitasking features that I'll have a separate video on, that I'll go into much more detail about how you can really take advantage of this. But the idea is, if you've got your view how you want it, maybe your camera is like right here looking down on the aircraft, and you toggle ABC control mode off, and you go back, let's say you even go back inside the cockpit and you perform some function, the minute you click your keyboard binding to turn ABC control mode back on, you return to the ABC camera in the right mode, looking at the right spot. Okay, so how can you tell that you're in ABC mode? Well, one is this status bar that's at the bottom, but the default behavior is the status bar disappears after a few seconds. And in settings, you can change the timeout period for that if you want. The other thing you may not have seen is on the outside border here, if you notice, there's this little gray border. And I'm going to use my scroll wheel and make it bigger. And you can do this too. So it's really simple user interface to just make that bigger or smaller as you like. There's more about how you can customize this I'll talk about in a different video, because you can actually change the colors that ABC uses and all that kind of stuff. So that'll all be in another video. But basically, if you don't want this border, you simply scroll it till it's gone. But if you do want it, because it's very handy to quickly tell that you're in X-plane, in ABC versus X-plane, that's a good signal. So watch, I'm going to hit Shift 4, and now I'm looking at the aircraft using X-plane's camera. I'm not using ABC because there's no border, and then I'm going to click ABC camera mode back on, and there we are again. Okay, and this is another obvious clue that you're in ABC, and I'll tell you what this means next. But it does go away after some period of timeout, and the timeout's kind of dependent on your system and how slow or fast it is. So I think a better system for this is, there's actually, if you look carefully, you may not see it on this screencast because of the resolution, but there's a little shadow that comes up as you hover over where this status bar is. And if you click it, it'll actually lock the status bar in place. And when you do that, now you can always tell. And you may want to do this as you're learning ABC, and then you can always click it off if you don't need it. You can actually set, what I do is I set the timeout for this status bar to 0, so it'll never show up, and then I just lock it on. And I've actually just changed ABC so that by default, if you quit ABC or quit X-plane with this locked on, then when you start X-plane up, it'll be here automatically, locked on. And then all you gotta do to get rid of it is click it again, and it's just sticky. So okay, what does it say? So this tells you that you're running ABC, the camera is ABC's camera, you're in still spot mode, and auto zoom is on, which is a sub-mode of still spot, and I'll show you that in a second. It tells you that the aircraft we're currently looking at is aircraft number 1, and it actually tells you what kind of aircraft it is as best it can determine at its altitude. At this point it's on the ground, and it actually infers, based on a lot of data that I actually keep track of as you're using the product, what the mode of flight is. Right now, phase of flight, right now it's at gate. Now, all of this is going to be much more interesting if we were flying or if we switched to viewing a different aircraft. Now, I have a whole video that's going to go into this, but real quick, let me introduce this tracking list window. And you see here I have 20 AI aircraft, and I got these AI aircraft using X-Plane's built-in AI feature. So you can actually fill up to 20 slots with aircraft that are you just pick out of your aircraft folder. Some of them may or may not support AI flight. I used almost all of X-Plane's standard AI aircraft, but I threw in a couple others. That's why you get this warning. So because those are there and I started the flight here in San Jose, it automatically has, you see that plane moving in the background back there, it automatically has all these 20 planes doing stuff. And one of the features that X-Plane, a lot of people don't know this, so I always try to do this in my overview videos like this one, is to explain that in X-Plane without ABC, you can actually track all of these aircraft individually. Unfortunately, X-Plane doesn't give you a quick way to find them. You have to actually bind the keyboard binding. I think it's called track, or views track is what it is. Views track aircraft. Sorry, I forgot. Views track aircraft, and I have a few key bindings set. So basically, all you can do in X-Plane is hit next or previous. And actually, we're actually looking at this aircraft. But I'll show you in a minute how you can re-aim the camera back at that aircraft. But right now, I want to switch to tracking one of these aircraft. In fact, I want to track that one because it's the closest one. And in ABC, I actually have a way to do it using a command. There was a closer one. So anyway, it's called lasso. You throw a rope around the closest aircraft, and lasso will track that closest aircraft. See, there's this one. And we're in still spot mode. Let me switch back to circle mode. There we are in circle mode. So I'm just going to turn the camera around here. I'm cheating by using a couple commands I haven't shown you yet. But let's do lasso. So lasso automatically focuses in on the nearest aircraft and puts you in circle mode around that aircraft. Now this is ABC we're using. But just for completeness, I'm going to show you that X-Plane now, without the user having to explicitly change targets, X-Plane is now using this as well. So if we go back up here to X-Plane, so we're going to leave ABC, and we go to circle mode in X-Plane, you notice that we're now circling the aircraft using X-Plane, and ABC is off. That's what standby means down here. And this would go away again if you didn't have it locked on. You can't actually lock it on while ABC is not on, because that would be like a violation of user interface guidelines. Because ABC is not controlling the camera, you shouldn't be able to click anything without it being a menu or a window. So you can always get that back using a command or by turning ABC's command mode back on again. So now we're back in ABC circle, and now I can click to lock it, sorry. So now we're basically circling this plane both in X-Plane and in ABC. And you may have noticed here, let's configure the camera how we want it. We'll zoom in really tight from up above looking down on the aircraft. And we're in circle mode, so we're going to just stay at the same angle while the aircraft sort of moves. We're going to track the aircraft, but the camera will stay at the same position. The angle will stay the same relative to the aircraft. So if we were in chase mode, we'd actually be tracking the way the aircraft was turning. But I'm going to save that for a minute. But anyway, so now if we hit Shift 4 to go back to X-Plane, in X-Plane, Shift 4 starts a new circle. So you always have to reposition the camera. And another multitasking feature of ABC is not only can we hit the ABC key to go back into ABC, but by doing so, we recall the exact position of the camera. So we're still up above it, looking down, zoomed in, and further away than normal. So that's just an example of how ABC works. All right, so this is one of the targets. Now going back to where I started, which was this tracking list, you see we're actually on this MD82. So just to show you, we can actually switch to any aircraft. This one happens to be flying. And whenever we do this, we're going to switch into ABC mode. But we'll recall whichever mode we were in last. So we're in circle mode, so anytime you switch targets here, you're going to go to that target in circle mode. Now, X-Plane lets you do this, but in X-Plane you have to hit, here let's go back to circle mode in X-Plane, so we're out of ABC. And I'm going to hit my Control N, which was next target, next target. This is the keyboard binding I showed you that switches targets in X-Plane. So it works. It lets you go through the targets, but it doesn't let you address any specific one. You have to actually step through them all to find the one you want so that you can then start tracking it. And tracking, by the way, doesn't just mean viewing it in circle. And you might notice we're really far away from it. This is a failing of X-Plane's circle. If we switch to ABC circle, that's not our new circle though. Here's the new circle. Every time you do the new circle command in ABC, it actually puts you much closer at a much better angle to the aircraft. And you can actually control which direction the camera faces when you start a new circle in ABC. Or we can go to chase mode in ABC. So I just did it using a keyboard binding, but see, I'm in chase mode. Chase view, actually, sorry. Or we could go to free camera and the aircraft will just fly away because we're no longer tracking the aircraft. But if I switch back to circle view means circle an aircraft, so it switches out of chase mode and back to whatever your last target was, which it also makes sure is X-Plane's target. So we're in X-Plane. So basically it's seamless in the sense that the views in ABC kind of collaborate with the environment. They switch the target for you for X-Plane. It isn't perfect though, because the only method that ABC has to do the switching is the same one I showed you, Control N or whatever the command is for next and previous. So I actually have to do this for you, and if you have the wrong number of aircraft, if you don't have 20 filling all 20 slots, then actually the counts will still be right because I try to figure that out. But there are bugs like where a plane might be considered invalid to X-Plane, but I consider it valid. So I might count it differently, and I'm just sitting there and automatically hitting next, next, next for you. So like this one is actually going backwards from 0. It actually goes to the user aircraft and then goes back 1. So now if I hit Shift 4, there it is. Anyway, that's just a little bit of trivia. But it works. You see we're back out of ABC, we're in X-Plane. And we can use X-Plane's still spot, which now is more demonstrable because the aircraft is moving. Still spot, as you may or may not know, the camera doesn't move. It just tracks the aircraft with the camera aims at the aircraft and watches it fly by. If you do it again, this isn't the best aircraft to do it for. Let me go back to a different one. Here we go. No, it's too small too. This will do. So this is all X-Plane without ABC. I'm going to show you the ABC version of still spot now. And you may remember that I showed you that there was a feature called auto zoom, which is specific to still spot. I'm going to turn that off real quick, and now I'm going to show you ABC still spot. And it's basically the same. You know, the calculations that I do to put the camera out in front and have it track the aircraft as it goes by, those are going to give you a slightly different positioning, but it's basically the same exact thing, and you get to watch it go by. But I offer a feature called auto zoom, which I just turned on. And auto zoom, let's start it over. Auto zoom will actually keep the aircraft zoomed in at a certain level until it gets too far away, and then it doesn't keep zooming just for sanity's sake. So there it stopped zooming, and now it's getting further and further away. But auto zoom means you can't manually zoom out, but you can manually zoom in. So you can zoom in more, but you have to zoom out to this automatically calculated zoom level. So that's kind of a nice feature, I think, because from here I can even hit auto zoom and you can now see where the aircraft is, Which brings me to the aim. Let me just move the camera off, and now I'm going to hit re-aim. So there's an ABC command called re-aim that just takes wherever the camera is and re-aims it at the aircraft. That combined with auto zoom can be really powerful in helping you kind of like achieve your goal. All right, there's one that went by. Let's catch it. There, I just grabbed it. So I used lasso to grab the next plane that was flying by. And now I'm just doing the same exact thing. I'm doing flyby or still spot of that. So that's ABC still spot. Basically, the only difference really between ABC still spot and X-plane is auto zoom, the ability to zoom into it automatically. And here it is without auto zoom. And it could start from further away, but I actually make it start less far away than X-plane does. But you can actually control that. There's a setting, a very esoteric setting for that. I just switched to the next target, and now here's a different aircraft that we're now targeting. And this is without auto zoom. And then here I'm going to hit auto zoom. All right. And you can actually control how much auto zoom zooms in and how sensitive it is to how far away the aircraft is. There are two different settings, and those are both in settings. And generally speaking, let me switch to circle for this. These are all quick overviews. There's some of these I go into much more detail. But generally speaking, settings is easy because even though there's a whole lot of settings, you can just type a query. So if I want to search for auto zoom, with or without the hyphen, you find that there are a few, and you can actually make this window bigger. There are a few auto zoom settings. Two of them, because I have esoteric settings turned on, you see more than you would. But basically, enabling and disabling auto zoom is the same as if I hit that button that I was hitting earlier. Auto zoom strength, it starts out normal, but you can make it low or high. Here, I'm going to pause X-plane. That way you can just sort of see what effect it's going to have. So you can sort of tell how much it's going to zoom in. Now this is going to be different depending on how far away from the aircraft you are. So it won't always be different. It depends on how sensitive it is as well. So you can play around with these settings and determine what you like the best. These are just the numeric versions of those. Anyway, but that's an example of what you can do with settings. There's even for, well, I won't mention it yet. Okay. So, and you saw there's another aircraft right behind. Oh, this is still spot. I want to go back to circle mode. Circle mode tries to rotate the camera so you can see where the aircraft is when you do a lasso, but it doesn't always give you the best example. That was a good one. So we're just bopping back and forth between these two aircraft using lasso, which is also next nearest. Anyway, you may have noticed down here these yellow text, skip right, skip right. These are ABC commands, and this is basically the point of this video, is to show you these ABC commands. So I've written a little tool that lets me reflect on the screen for this screencast whenever I hit a command that's an ABC command, just so you know that that's what I did. So those aren't going to show up for you. I actually make it a feature so you can turn it on if you want. It's called Screencast, but it's not on by default at all. But anyway, so you can hit the command. I have Control left arrow, or is it? It's the command key on Mac. So I have Command left arrow. It's Alt on Windows, and right arrow, up arrow, and down arrow with the Alt key down as my skip command. So instead of having to hold the keyboard down, the key down until you go all the way around it, in this case I've set it to 60 degrees so I can just hit it 6 times and go all the way around, or I can hit it 3 times. Whoops, I went 4. Hit it 3 times to go to the other side. And let's lasso that one and keep going. You can go up, down, and you can control how many degrees per click it goes, but that actually just makes it easier to manipulate the camera around the aircraft, especially just going to the other side. So that's I consider that to be a really powerful extension to the normal circle commands in X-Plane. And since you use circle as the model for moving the camera around the aircraft in any tracking mode, this is flyby, still spot, you can actually move the camera using those same controls. The camera's normally not moving, but you can still move it. And you can do this in X-Plane by holding it down. I just let you also do it using these command keys. So these command keys are really powerful. Not only that, but you can do this. I call them one-click commands. You can jump away, or I call it jump back, I guess, or jump forward, back, forward. And I can do zoom in quick increments, so quick zoom. And you don't have to be looking at the aircraft. You can quick zoom to anything. Re-aim, and then quick zoom. And then I have a really cool feature, I like it anyway, called telephoto. And telephoto, you notice the aircraft isn't really changing size, but the aircraft is being zoomed in and out. So basically what it is you're combining zooming or moving out with zooming in. Whoops, we hit a wall. Let's go to a different aircraft. You're combining zooming in with moving away, or zooming out with moving towards. And I just do those in increments as well, in single click increments, which can be really nice for like staging a nice screenshot or something. It's just a little silly thing I made. Yeah, there we go. So and you can do as much as you want until it sort of doesn't work anymore. That doesn't look very good, but it'll only go so far each direction. All right, so I think I'm making progress going through all this with you. So another mode is tower spot, which is the same as still spot, but it puts the camera at the tower looking at the aircraft. So here it is coming straight over the airport from the sun from the east. So what we're going to do is turn off auto zoom because it was on, and now I can zoom out. I'm going to do it slowly just so you don't get disoriented. And you notice we're at the tower. I can actually rotate the camera down, and you see we're right above the tower. I use X-Plane's tower coordinates by simply invoking X-Plane's tower command. And you notice I rotated away, so I can use re-aim to rotate back. You can see it there, but it's tiny. I can use auto zoom to just see it closely. Now it's about to go overhead, which is kind of cool. But unlike X-Plane, this is an extension now, there are two things. One, I cache the tower location, so it won't take as long the second time, because X-Plane does it really slowly. It forces you to go through an animation each time. So I only force you through the animation once every 30 minutes or so. And then otherwise I use the cached location. Or if you reload scenery, it'll also undo the cache. So it went over us. But the other thing you can't do for some strange reason in X-Plane, I don't think you can, is move the camera away from the tower. So here you see I just use my normal motion keys left, and we're going in a circle around the aircraft as usual. I just pointed at the ground so you could see that we were doing that. So this basically converts a tower spot into a still spot. I probably should put still spot at the bottom because otherwise you can get confused. Since obviously we're no longer at the tower, and let's do auto zoom again. So you can it's basically just like still spot. The only difference is how it calculates the position of the still camera. So with tower spot, it puts the camera at the tower. With drop spot, it puts it where you currently are. And with still spot, if I switch to still spot mode, I'll use a keyboard binding. Every time you use still spot mode, it jumps to the position ahead of the aircraft to watch it fly by. And all drop spot is let's go into circle mode. So drop spot lets you drop the camera wherever it may be. So I can manually put the camera where I want it and then simply hit drop spot. And because auto zooms on, it zoomed in and it's following it from that spot. If I turn off auto zoom, you can do it from here, and it's sort of like continuing. So I'm basically toggling drop spot on and off. And one of the things I didn't mention is when you toggle a command, a view like drop spot or tower spot or still spot, when you toggle those on and off, it basically reverts to the previous mode you were in. So here we're in still spot, but I'm going to toggle it off now. So now we're circling the aircraft because that was the last mode. There's one exception, which is I currently don't correctly transition back to chase mode. So I put you back in circle if you were in chase. But I'm going to actually fix that in a future version. But anyway, so you can toggle it on, toggle it off. But every time you toggle still spot on, it restarts the spot. It starts the calculation again. So instead, you could just do that same exact thing with drop spot. And basically, you see the camera's not moving, the camera is moving, not, is. And you can just kind of play around with it till you figure out what you want. But it gives you lots of flexibility. And the camera will stay where it is. So if you go inside the aircraft and come back out using the multitasking feature, actually you come back in circle. I think it does correctly work. I think I just demoed it wrong. But anyway, the camera will stay there. It won't jump back in front of the aircraft. I showed that earlier, actually. All right, anyway, let's see. Not much to show with free camera, but just that it's a free camera. Chase View, I just got working the last release. So Chase View really works now. It's pretty nice. Like, for example, there it is. And whichever side you put the camera on, you get the correct view of the aircraft is flat relative to the camera, and you're hooked to the aircraft as if you're attached to the aircraft, as if the camera is attached. And then a couple of these random modes I won't go into yet. Animations, just real quick. By default, these are actually on, but you can turn them off very easily depending on if you like them or not. So I'm going to switch to circle view real quick and just show you what that does. It basically animates the motion of the camera, which X-Plane does only for the tower, and you can't turn it off. I do it for every view, so I'll move the camera in a sweeping motion between the targets as you advance. So if you're switching targets, you just jump around between the targets and you're good to go. All right, I think that's basically it for explaining all the awesome features. There's a whole lot more, and that's why I've made all these other videos. So with this as the sort of background, the fundamentals of how to use ABC, one thing I didn't do though is show you the commands. I'm not going to go through them, but it's a very long list. But you don't need to bind any commands in ABC just to use it for the basic features. But to get some of the cool stuff I've demonstrated, you'll need to bind different commands to different things. So that's how you get them. There's two types of commands. There's regular camera controls, and then there are meta commands that change the environment. Or they may, I didn't show that feature, but I have a saved positions feature. So for example, I've saved this chase view, and it works for any aircraft. So if I go to a different aircraft and I use the same keyboard binding, basically it can be a small or a big aircraft and it just works. So I saved this particular angle of chase view. Actually, let me turn off animations just to speed it up. So that's just, I'm hitting the load view command, and I let you save up to 5. That one's not very good. I let you save up to 5 different views, and basically they're whatever mode you're in, it's WYSIWYG. So whatever mode you're in, let's say I'm in circle mode and I've zoomed into it and I'm looking at it from above and off to the right. Then I can save that using a command. So now I've saved in slot 5. So now if I go to a different aircraft and I hit my command to return to slot 5, you see I'm above and to the right of that aircraft in circle mode. So whatever mode you're in, it saves that. So it's a really nice, handy way to get to a specific place. Whoops, I hit a key next to it. But, you know, And here's some of the other views I had saved. So you can save any kind of view, basically. That was the other thing I just wanted to mention. So anyway, yeah, if you type ABC here, you get all the different commands. So there's a lot more, so please do go ahead and click through to the next video and check out some of the other cool features, because I go into quite a bit about this, which is the window version of the aircraft tracking list that we talked about. And then in the next version, the next video, I'll talk at great length about tracking different types of targets, TCAS enabled, and third-party plugins such as live traffic, which I won't demo here, but once you've enabled live traffic, you'll see now you have a live traffic tab, and I'll demo that in the next video. So please stand by for that, and I hope folks get value from this. And wherever you found the link to this video, that should have been the forum thread where you can post your feedback and questions and comments, so feel free to do that as well. And I hope that you all enjoy using this free plugin for X-Plane. Thanks.